Hello, this is Diana from Yarn Eddies, here with a quick video to demonstrate how to complete the finishing for your Cotton Breeze crossbody bag. The first thing you will need to do is mark the center back, center front, and sides with stitch markers. Use the side with the join stitches as the back. At the top row, locate the join stitch. It should be just about in the center back. You should have 8 stitches between stitch markers, but you may need to adjust the markers if it looks slightly off to you. Mark the sides and the center front. You can also mark the center stitch 4 rows down from the top. That will mark the bottom edge of where the flap will sit. Fold the flap over the top of the bag like a taco shell, making sure the buttonhole side is on the front. Pin the back of the flap to the back of the bag. Keep flipping it back and forth to make sure the buttonhole looks centered. You may need to adjust several times before pinning and sewing the flap in place. Once you have the flap centered, take the yarn tail and begin sewing along or near the edge of the chain stitches all the way around. Use small stitches and pull firmly but not too tightly. The stitches should be barely visible. Sew around the rounded edge and across the top, sort of like sewing in a half circle. Then sew up the center. Then flip the bag open and whip stitch the back top edge to the flap. Again, pull firmly but not too tightly that it pulls the flap out of shape or alignment. Next comes sewing on your button. Turn your bag over and use the buttonhole to mark the spot for the button with a pin. Test your button with the buttonhole, ensuring that the buttonhole isn't so small that it falls right through it. Also, make sure your needle can fit through the shank or the holes of the button. An embroidery needle works pretty well. I like to use 2 plies of the yarn as sewing thread. Let the shank of the button poke through the back of the bag and attach it using 2 ends of your sewing yarn and tying a knot. This is to hold the button steady as you sew it in place. Run the needle from back to front through the shank, then back down, and catching yarn each time. Keep sewing until the button feels secure on the bag. Also, frequently check the position of the button, making sure it hasn't shifted during the sewing process. Once secure, weave your sewing thread through the back near the other yarn tail. Tie another knot, then weave both tails back and forth several times before clipping your yarn. Next comes adding the handles. Place one end of the handle inside the bag by the side stitch marker. Pin it in place and use the yarn tails to sew from back to the front, going right through the bag, then back through from the front to the inside, and through the actual handle itself several times until it feels flat and secure. Again, use small stitches and pull firmly, but not too tightly that you are distorting the bag or distorting the alignment of the handle. Next, make sure the cord is not twisted. Then place the other end of the handle by the other stitch marker. Pin the handle in place and double check that it isn't twisted and is in the right spot. Sew the end in place using the yarn tails. Again, sew from back to front, right through the bag itself, back and forth several times until it is secure. Weave in the yarn tails. Thanks for watching this Yarnetti's Crochet Quick Tip video. Please hit the like button and click on subscribe for more crochet quick tips.